We're talking about the most competitive close-range Warzone meta we've probably ever had, but there's a huge problem holding a bunch of weapons back. You can see I have the controller on screen, and there's a reason for that. I wanted to show you a particular stat that is wrong in-game that definitely needs to be addressed by the developers to make many more guns more viable. So how it works, if I go in here for the Superi, I can look at the create a class on the bottom right. You can see this slide to fire speed. It says 0. We know that it's not 0. 0's not possible. And it's never been a thing in Warzone. And then we compare that to a Black Ops 6 gun, like the Jackal. You can see it's down to 144. Even without the ergonomic grip, which we'll go ahead and show a comparison of. Go ahead and check it out. It says up to 320. This one's going to be slower than the 0. But when we go into the firing range, you can see my button, my R1. That's when I pull the trigger. If I was sprinting, you can see the sprint to fire time from when I press the button to how fast it fires. But the bad part about the MW2 and MW3 guns is that sprint to fire time that it says 0, and none of the attachments do a significant amount to solve this. So when I go ahead and slide and pull that trigger, it takes forever, which doesn't feel like a big deal until you actually compare it to a BO6 weapon, which comes out significantly faster and infinitely faster once we go ahead and equip ergonomic grip, which you're going to see takes 55% off, and it says it's supposed to lower it down to 144 milliseconds, which is wrong in testing, which we'll go ahead and check out. But you can see here, when I go ahead and slide, there's the Superi, and this is the Jackal. So you get instantaneous, basically, not 0, but pretty fast. I believe in my testing is around 70 milliseconds, which I'll show you the example. So here's a quick example that we can go ahead and show you. You can see the button right here. It's not lit up, and it's 00 on the clock, and the ammo is 50. Essentially, this is going to start the timer on the left. When we go a frame forward, you can go, or a couple frames there, and it will wait until it actually fires a bullet. And we'll see that the striker doesn't fire a bullet until around 450 milliseconds, which is almost an eternity when it comes to in-game time, especially when we compare that to the ergonomic grip on any of the Black Ops 6 weapons, which gets significantly faster. We're going to go one frame ahead. We can see the buttons pressed. That starts the timer, and then we get sprint to fire so fast I almost skipped it. 67 milliseconds. Then we go something like the PP19. You can see the buttons pressed, and then when we come through, the ammo already comes out at like 50 milliseconds, 67 milliseconds. So it's insanely fast. And about 90% faster. Now, when it comes to TTK, I want to give you kind of a little bit of an overview of where things sit and how competitive it is within the first and second damage ranges that make so many of these guns viable, despite this sprint to fire time or slide to fire time that is present on BO6 weapons versus MW2 and MW3 weapons, because there's no attachment for it. I've gone and combined a bunch of data from GG's AI, which is a website for loadouts, as well as COD community, Warzone stats, compiled an average to kind of see where they place them, and then looked at overall rankings based off of that. And obviously I factored in my own stuff when I built my loadouts, but overall the Jackal ends up being number 1. You can see the TTK is 616, pretty dominant within 11 meters for a majority of the category. The really only the thing that competes with it, guns that you need multiple headshots for, are the BP50 with the conversion kit, which is a little bit slower. Then we got the second damage range 704, which is pretty competitive all the way across, but some guns do excel if you manage to get only chest and above. So it makes it really competitive on what people are going to pick and choose. The PP919, great magazine by default. You could put on fast mags and you still have a decent magazine. A little bit slower on the TTK side, a little bit less competitive on that end, but the range goes up to 22 meters, which is kind of nice. Static would be pretty solid, even with one headshot, but again, it has that little bit of a penalty on the slide to fire time. BP50 is amazing. If you get one headshot, it's even more amazing. And the second damage drop off up to 19.5 meters. And this is without the long barrel, which will elongate that range by a few meters for a lot of these guns. C9, you can see where that kind of fits in. You can see they managed to fit pretty much all the guns within around 600 milliseconds and around 675, 680, which has almost never been done before, that we have this many guns that would be viable with this little fix to the slide to fire time and a few other mobility things. KSV, you can see if you get 2 headshots, its TTK is pretty good. Otherwise, it's kind of on par with the PP919, Saug, and you can kind of see down the list. Compact's also pretty good, but the problem with this is if you land one stomach or one leg shot, you're going to make your TTK worse up to 660, and we end up having the similar issue at the further range. But overall, even at the bottom of the list for a lot of these websites, you can see that it ends up with the TTK of close to 660, which is well in line with nearly every gun on the list. And then you can see right here, this is the thing where I just showed you with the sprint to fire thing, with the slide to fire. The striker, we had pretty much 2 options with different attachments. I was able to find different things, the Jackal, and then the PP919, and then the C9 without the ergonomic. Just trying to see as a comparison. Baseline, all the BO6 ones are better. Then with ergonomic, they're insanely fast relative to the MW2 and MW3 weapons. So we'll go ahead and go through the list, and it's not going to be a surprise. Pretty much all the BO6 weapons make the list. And like I said, it's never been this competitive. We'll go ahead and start off with the Compact, which is going to be a pretty solid option. These are all 5 attachment builds. If you wanted to do 8 attachment, you'd pretty much build out a few extra attachments, which I'll talk about. Barrel, I'm going with the long barrel. Initially, I like the reinforced. Bullet velocity at 500 is still serviceable. I wish it was 600, and I wish all the bullet velocities were buffed across the board the same way they need to fix this slide to fire for all the other close range options. I'm sure they'll get to it, but long barrel gives you those extra couple meters, which do matter. And then we got vertical grip, which is great for the recoil stuff on the horizontal side, and then recoil springs. If you feel like you want more bullet velocity, you go with the Parabellum. And then ergonomic on pretty much every close range build. And then we got the extended mags. If you end up with the extra attachments, I'd go with the stock, particularly the infiltrator stock, because you're going to get the better strafe speed, which is probably one of the most important things. There are a few others that you can mess with, but that's why I would go with that one. Compensator, just standard compensator, is going to help with the vertical recoil, and then an optic. That gives you the 3 extra attachments because they've gone back and simplified our loadouts again. When we go to the Saug, you can kind of see I've gone by the same pretty much build that we've seen there, and they've gone back to simplifying the game significantly. Back to like Warzone 1 level, where pretty much everyone's running monolithic suppressor, longest barrel, commando foregrip, extended mag, BLK optic, right? They've gone through and simplified this process to make it really easy for you to build your loadouts on the fly, which I think is a good thing. When we end up going in game, we can kind of see the Saug, kind of how that builds out. The Saug was such a good weapon in BO4. And then we also have the Compact, which is insanely fast fire rate. The nice part that they've done for us is they've made it so that rapid fire reduces your damage. So almost never viable or not worth using. The same thing with the barrel, that's going to help out with the damage. Really not that, maybe there's cases that I'm unaware of, but currently it's really not worth it. We get up to the KSV and the C9. We can see kind of how the KSV sits. Those are the attachments there. If you want to swap something out or add something, it'd be one of those attachments I've already mentioned. Same thing with the C9. Overall, pretty much same build. Like I said, they've streamlined this for us to make it as easy as possible for you to build your loadouts and not have to overthink it like we had with all the tuning and all the other things that we've had with the guns to make them significantly harder to build class setups, or that you're spending more time in the menus than actually playing the game. Same thing with the backpack being gone. You're more time playing the game than focusing on inventory management. Great changes just to simplify the game, make it easy as possible. Game is still bugged all to hell, but it's moving in the right direction on the core features that are kind of important to the game. And then again, the top 2 weapons should be no surprise. The PP919, and then the number 1 is definitely the Jackal. PP919 gets a little bit of a different kind of loadout. We use fast mags because you still end up with an extended mag of up to about 50, which is more than a lot of them. If you go ahead and drop that, you're still going to have the option. So you can go 50 round mag, 40, 30, but I like just a regular 50 round. You get a little bit faster. We're using the compensator. You have the fire mod there, and then long barrel. No underbarrel. So that's why we're able to run that compensator. And then when it comes to the Jackal, we end up basically the same build we've seen in all of these. It does have the blueprint that changes the iron sights, which we can see here. But overall, I think these guns are just super easy to use at a little bit of the further ranges, which I think also helps them a little bit on being a little bit more competitive. Let me know what you're enjoying in the close range meta. If you enjoyed the video, hit the like button. See you on the next one. Thank you for watching. As always, have a great day.